The Urantia book. Paper 94, the Melchizedek teachings in the Orient. Brahmanic philosophy, on and on, has also taken no cognizance of the essential personality of the universal Father, who is personally contactable on all levels, from the evolutionary creature's limited experience with God on up to the limitless experience of the eternal Son with the Paradise Father. There's a line in a book, Jesus of Nazareth, says something like, to Ganid, he's going on a trip with Ganid and Ganid, two Indians. He was going on a trip with them to Rome. This is in the Urantia book. And he said to Ganid, his pupil on this journey. Ganid was the father with business throughout the known world. Ganid was his son. Jesus is doing a trip with the two of them prior to Jesus's public mission. And Ganid asks him about Buddha. And Jesus said, well, Buddha did pretty good, but he took him right up to the shores of truth, but didn't quite bring him to shore. Basically meaning that Buddha or Buddhism doesn't strongly believe in a personal moral God. Today in India, ... Another paragraph in the Urantia book about whatever it wants to talk about here. All that is needed is the vitalizing spark of the dynamic love portrayed in the original gospel of the Son of Man, divested of the Occidental dogmas, ... It's just saying what it wants to say. So this book, the Urantia book, lauds, Lauds, lauds Jesus of Nazareth, as it should, as is appropriate, as far as the love of Jesus of Nazareth and this and that. It will go on and on about that idea topic throughout the book, especially in the fourth part of the book, which is all about the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. The God concept of Buddhism is a section 12 in paper 94. Just goes on and on with what it wants to say about what it thinks, what the Urantia book thinks about this subject and topic. All Urantia is waiting for the proclamation of the ennobling message of Michael, unencumbered by the accumulated doctrines and dogmas of 19 centuries of contact with the religions of evolutionary origin. So the teachings of Michael of Nebadon, Jesus of Nazareth. So Michael of Nebadon is the universal creator, maker, ruler of this universe of Nebadon, and he bestowed himself on this planet as Jesus of Nazareth. And the liberating gospel of Jesus of Nazareth is the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. So to me, that means the will of God and service to others, service to man, and the proclamation of the ennobling message of Jesus of Nazareth. And the ennobling message to me is live strongly, live simply, live morally, live vitally, live lucidly, live with all your senses and awareness and goodness and morality. Live with that, live as that, live in that, moment to moment, and accept your function in the will of God. So, A Course in Miracles, we'll talk about function, which to me means what's your job in the will of God as a mortal human evolutionary will being currently on the planet, and or in any moment into eternity, living your function, living your job in the will of God, whatever it might be in any given moment. That is the ennobling message of Michael of Lebanon. Everyone should choose to do this. Everyone should choose to live in this. I mean, the major issue there concerning this world urantia is the system rebellion, the Lucifer rebellion, along with the planetary spiritual ruler of this world went into rebellion. So they decided not to live their function in the will of God. Paper 95, the Melchizedek teachings in the Levant. Levant, wherever the Levant is, I guess that's Middle East, something, something, on and on. Egypt, it looks like, is mentioned here in terms of what's going on in Egypt in terms of from 4,000 years ago on, religious growth in Egypt and other parts of the world. The Salem doctrines in Iran. Zoroaster, this great man, was one of that unique group that sprang up in the 6th century before Christ to keep the light of Salem, where Machiventa Melchizedek was, from being fully and finally extinguished, as it so dimly burned to show man in his darkened world the path of light leading to everlasting life. So they're saying the light of life, of truth, of goodness, of the knowledge of God the Father and things of this nature may have been fully extinguished without the bestowal of Machiventa Melchizedek, who came here as a full-grown adult about 2,000 years before Jesus of Nazareth. And in the 6th century before Christ, they had various humans start religions or whatever to keep the light of religiousness, spirituality going. The Salem teachings in Arabia, et cetera, et cetera. Like a sentence like this, for example: despite the fact that the great Levantine monotheisms failed to take root in Arabia, this desert land was capable of producing a faith which, though less demanding in its social requirements, was nonetheless monotheistic. Whatever they're talking about here, on and on about what they want to say about all these subjects about evolutionary religion, religion of man, religion in different parts of the country as it grew, as evolutionary religion grew. 96. Yahweh, God of the Hebrews. Paper 96. The Salem religion was revered as a tradition by the Kenites and several other Canaanite tribes. And this was one of the purposes of Melchizedek's incarnation. Oh, ... that a religion of one God should be so fostered as to prepare the way for the earth bestowal of a son of that one God. So, Michael could hardly come to Urantia until there existed a people believing in the universal Father among whom he could appear. So, Machiventa's incarnation, one of the major reasons for Machiventa's incarnation, one of his major purposes as he was here and taught the peoples in his area in his time, so that a religion of one God could be so fostered as to prepare the way for the coming of Jesus of Nazareth. Michael of Nebadon, it was already known in the time of Melchizedek, even in the time of Adam and Eve. Shortly after the fall of Adam and Eve, a long time ago, 37,000 years ago, shortly after that default, Michael of Nebadon himself said, or at least alluded to, the idea that he was going to come to this world. So Michael of Nebadon is the universe maker, ruler, creator of this universe of Nebadon. So it was known in the time of Melchizedek that Michael of Nebadon was coming to this sphere. There's a line in the Urantia book, something about Jesus of Nazareth did not necessarily have to come to this planet as a baby born of woman and grow to adulthood and do his mission that way. He could have come to this sphere. I think the book sort of alludes to this if it doesn't say it outright. It says he could have come to this sphere as a magisterial son or in a magisterial capacity. Nah, no way. There's a line in the book that says, we weren't sure how the creator's son was going to come to Urantia. And then it happened that he came as Jesus of Nazareth, as a baby, born of woman, born of Mary. But there's a line in the book like, we weren't sure exactly how this was going to occur until it occurred. I'm not even positive if Michael of Nebadon could come to this world similar to a magisterial Avonal son coming to this world as a full-grown adult of the realm, just putting himself on the sphere as a full-grown adult of the realm. I do not know if that is an option. I do not think so. So anyway, definitely says earth bestowal of a son. When they're talking about bestowals of a son of God, they're talking about a creator son or a magisterial Avonal son, such as myself, born of woman on the planet. When they talk about bestowals, that's what they're referring to. Magisterial missions are full-grown adults, full-grown magisterial sons on the sphere, full-grown adult magisterial sons on the sphere, the human evolutionary sphere, whichever sphere that is. The plan is for 10 million inhabited worlds in this one local universe of Nebadon, of 100,000 local universes in one super universe, 7 super universes, and that just the first level of outer space after the perfect central creation of Paradise Avona. So Machiventa Melchizedek was teaching, fostering to prepare the way so that Michael of Nebadon could bestow himself on this world as Jesus of Nazareth. There's a line in the book, not just here, but somewhere else, something about Michael of Nebadon could hardly appear on this sphere until there was a religion that was monotheistic, that believed in one God. Something like that. There's a line or two or three or whatever about that in the book. So, Maki went to Melchizedek, was preparing the way, knowing that Michael of Nebadon was going to bestow himself on this world as Jesus of Nazareth. So he is the first bestowal son on this sphere of urantia. I am the second bestowal on this sphere of urantia, as a magisterial avonal son of the secondary order of the paradise sons. I too was born of woman, am born of woman, was born of woman. Yes. So I, as a magisterial avonal son, am currently on a bestowal mission, not a magisterial mission, a bestowal mission on this planet currently. And it's described in the Urantia book, what a bestowal mission means, what takes place, what occurs, different things. And there will be major features to my life in my lifetime. Yes, there will be. Major features, major specific features about my bestowal as a magisterial avonal son currently on earth. Maki then to Melchizedek. Paper 96. They came near losing all concept of monotheism. They nearly lost their opportunity of becoming the people who would serve as a vital link in the spiritual evolution of Urantia, the group who would conserve the Melchizedek teaching of one God until the times of the incarnation of a bestowal son of that Father of all. This has to do with Moses. So the purpose for Moses was to foster the spiritualness around him in terms of the people around him, the people that he was working with, the people that he was with, the Jews. So that's a sentence in the Urantia book about that topic of, in theory, the Urantia book definitely says, in theory, Jesus of Nazareth could have been born amongst other people, other families. They narrowed it, the spirit beings who make these types of decisions, specifically Gabriel, the firstborn in Nebadon, firstborn to the creator son, Michael of Nebadon, and his divine minister, the male and the female, spirit rulers, makers of this local universe. Their firstborn spirit being is Gabriel. And Gabriel had much to do with the decision of where Michael of Nebadon and amongst whom he would bestow himself as a human will being on this planet. But the Urantia book pretty explicitly says that it could have been other areas. I think it says explicitly Michael of Nebadon as Jesus of Nazareth could have lived his life in Egypt amongst a family in Egypt, been born to a family in Egypt. He could have been born in other circumstances. The Urantia book is fairly plain about that. Depending on how the world is going in terms of its evolutionary religion. Something like that. It's all discussed in the Urantia book. So I too am a bestowal son of the eternal son, while Jesus of Nazareth, Michael of Nebadon, is a bestowal son of the Father and the Son. So the first two members of the Trinity, the universal Father and the eternal Son, Those are the names given to the first two members of the Trinity in the Urantia book. And those two beings create creator sons, Michael's sons, Michael and Abaddon. They create them. The second two members of the Trinity, the eternal Son and the infinite Spirit, create magisterial avonal sons, such as myself, magisterial sons, also known as the avonals. I don't know where they came up with the word avonal, Avonal. I don't think it has any meaning in common human urantia, earth literature of any kind, Christian, spiritual, non-spiritual. I don't think the word avonal is used in any regular context on this earth prior to the Urantia book using it as the name for magisterial sons. I don't know, but so the second two persons of the Trinity make magisterial avonal sons, such as myself, and so I, as a magisterial avonal son, am an incarnation in human form as a bestowal son of the eternal Son and the infinite Spirit. So whereas paper 96, section 6, paragraph 2 is referring to Jesus of Nazareth as a bestowal son of that Father of all, the universal Father, I am a incarnation in human form, a bestowal son of the eternal Son, the second person of the Trinity, or the eternal Mother Son, is how he is also termed in the Urantia book, and the infinite Spirit, the third person of the Trinity, the Mother Spirit. The infinite Spirit is definitely considered the female aspect of God, whereas the eternal Mother Son, the second person of Trinity, is male and female. The universal Father in the Urantia book, and the overall flavor of the Urantia book, they seem to portray the universal Father as male, the eternal Son as male and female, and the infinite Spirit as female. Sort of, kind of. But they're all, three beings are referred to as him first, but paper 96, Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, and the volcano, and they just talk about the golden calf. So the Bible stories are short, not as accurate as the Urantia book. The Urantia book gives longer stories about the exact same stuff in the Old Testament. The Urantia book gives the exact same story information in longer form and more truthful, truthful versus not having any errors in it and giving the full story of what actually took place with things like the golden calf and Moses and the mountain and the 10 Commandments and whatever. It's all in the Urantia book. And it's not as well done in the Old Testament Bible as far as telling us the truth of what happened. It's not as well done in the Bible. It's better done in here. The Semitic peoples. For example, Yahweh was worshipped by more than 100 separate Arabian tribes, and except for the tinge of the El Elyon concept of Melchizedek, which persisted among the more educated classes of Egypt, including the mixed Hebrew and Egyptian stocks, the religion of the rank and file of the Hebrew captive slaves was a modified version of the old Yahweh ritual of magic and sacrifice. So that was one sentence. There's a lot of long sentences in your Urantia book. They're not run-on sentences. They're long sentences, though, perfectly grammatically correct. Intellectually, they're intellectual type sentences. A little bit intellectually, as far as trying to understand them, there's a certain intellectualness to these sentences to understand what they're trying to say in terms of putting forth information. So it's a good book. It's a good read. It's a good read. It's a well done book, well crafted book in terms of its sentences and paragraphs and information. The Matchless Moses. He liked that title for Moses. Matchless. Moses was a special guy. Branch book definitely points out more than once that Moses was a very unique, interesting, special. I'm sure he was a humble, God-loving, God-fearing man, whatever. But they point out that Moses was different. They really like Moses in the Urantia book. The teachings of Moses. When Moses turned over the command of the Hebrews to Joshua, he had already gathered up thousands of the collateral descendants of Abraham, Nahor, Lot, and other of the related tribes, and had whipped them into a self-sustaining and partially self-regulating nation of pastoral warriors. That is a sentence in the Urantia book about that topic. Psalms in the book of Job. What the Urantia book wants to say about Psalms in the book of Job. So they quote the Bible often in this Urantia book. The Urantia book is trying to deliberately attract Bible readers, Bible believers, Old Testament, New Testament. The Urantia book is definitely purposely trying to attract Bible readers because the Urantia book is an expansion of the Bible in terms of what it says. So it quotes from the Bible frequently throughout the entire book, especially in certain parts where it's talking about stuff from the Bible, especially in the beginning of the book when they're talking about God the Father, the universal Father, the first person of the Trinity, and in the Jesus papers. Again, presented by Melchizedek, and thus did the remnants of the Salem missionaries in Mesopotamia maintain the light of truth during the period of the disorganization of the Hebrew peoples until the appearance of the first of that long line of the teachers of Israel, etc., etc. It just goes on and on about what it wants to say about, early Judaism. Paper 97, Evolution of the God Concept Among the Hebrews. Jeremiah the Fearless. The Urantia book says there were two Isaiahs. So whereas the Bible only knows of one Isaiah, and they explain why. There's only one Isaiah in the Bible, but there were two Isaiahs, and the writings got combined up at some point, something like that in the Urantia book. It talks about it. The Urantia book does particularly like the second Isaiah in terms of his way of doing things and what he said and whatnot. And I think they say something about the Jews didn't like the second Isaiah that much. That's why they combined his stuff with the first Isaiah. I don't know, something like that. It's in the Urantia book. They give an explanation about it. The second Isaiah, paper 97, section 8, Sacred and Profane History. Whatever profane means. Profane is, I forget, I don't know. And all of this false hope led to such a degree of racial disappointment and frustration that the leaders of the Jews were so confused they failed to recognize and accept the mission and ministry of a divine Son of Paradise when he presently came to them in the likeness of mortal flesh, incarnated as the Son of Man. So Michael of Nebadon, Jesus of Nazareth, was not as well recognized as he could have been for various reasons. There's a line in the Urantia book right away at the very beginning. I'm not sure if it's a Bible line or not. It might be. I think it is. But Gabriel said to Mary, or right at the beginning, one of these early visitations of Gabriel to whomever, he said, I'm pretty sure it was Gabriel, but somebody definitely said this. The Jews shall hardly receive him. The Jews shall hardly receive him. So this was known from the very beginning. As far as the life of Jesus of Nazareth as a baby, this was known from the very beginning. Whoever said that to whomever. So So, because of whatever they're talking about in here, the Jews were so confused as far as the history of Judaism and prophets and the Old Testament information and whatever that the Jews were so confused they failed to recognize and accept the mission and ministry of a divine Son of Paradise. When he came as Jesus of Nazareth, Michael of Lebanon. So I too am a divine Son of Paradise, a magisterial Levanal Son, on a second bestowal for this sphere of urantia. I am on a second bestowal as a man born of woman with no children. I have no children.